everyone, welcome back to Saukhya Medvision. Today we are going to discuss the anterior triangle of the neck. In the last class we have completed the posterior triangle. Today we are going to complete the anterior triangle. As I said, the neck, to remember the structure that are present in the neck to make easy, the neck is divided into anterior and the posterior triangle by sternocleidomastoid. Yes, the part that present behind the sternocleidomastoid is considered as posterior triangle, and the part that present in front, like in anterior to the sternocleidomastoid, is considered as anterior triangle. Hence, the names respective to the sternocleidomastoid. What is the sternocleidomastoid muscle again? The muscle that is extending from clavicle, sternum, and inserting at the mastoid process of the temporal bone. Yes, so today we are going to complete with anterior triangle of the neck. Okay, now as I said, the anterior triangle, why it is anterior? It is a triangle that is present anterior to the sternocleidomastoid, right? So it is considered as anterior triangle. So our posterior border becomes what? The sternocleidomastoid becomes the posterior border. Remember this. Okay, now anterior triangle, the anterior border is formed by anterior median line of the neck. Anterior median line of neck is what? It is an imaginary line. It is a line that is extending from the symphysis menti. Okay, that is extending from the symphysis menti to the sternum. Yes, it is extending from symphysis menti to the sternum. That becomes the imaginary median line. Anterior median line of the neck becomes anterior border of the anterior triangle. Now, what is the posterior triangle? The posterior triangle, as I said, the posterior triangle becomes the anterior border of the sternum, sternocleidomastoid. Okay? The posterior border becomes what? The anterior border to the posterior triangle. Yes, right? The part behind the sternocleidomastoid is considered as what? Posterior triangle. So, the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid becomes the anterior border of the posterior triangle. Now, the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid becomes the posterior border of the anterior triangle of neck. Clear? Now, the apex is formed by suprasternal notch. Yes, suprasternal notch becomes the apex where the point meeting anterior and posterior border are meeting. Yes, apex is considered as, apex is formed by the sternal notch. This is the sternal notch, right? Where anterior border and the posterior border are meeting. Anterior border is made by anterior median line of the neck, whereas posterior border is formed by the anterior border of sternocleidomastoid. The point where these two are meeting, that becomes the apex of anterior triangle of the neck. Right? Now, what is the base? Base is formed by the lower border of body of mandible. See, here the apex is downwards. This is the apex, right? Apex is downwards and the base is upward. In the posterior triangle, base is downwards, which is formed by the superior surface, middle one third of the clavicle, and the apex is formed by the meeting point of sternocleidomastoid posterior border and anterior border of trapezius meeting at the mastoid process. Yes, there in the posterior triangle, apex is towards above, and the base is towards clavicle. Here the base is upwards and the apex is downwards. Apex is formed by the sternal notch meeting point of anterior and the posterior border, whereas the base is formed by the base of mandible. Base is formed by the base of mandible. Now, the lower border of body of mandible and line extending from angle of mandible to mastoid process is considered as base. Okay. Now, what is roof? Roof is same for this triangle also, whereas roof is investing layer of deep cervical fascia. What is the roof for a posterior triangle? See, investing layer of deep cervical fascia with superficial fascia. Right? So, this is the boundaries of anterior triangle. Anterior triangle is very large triangle. To make easy, this triangle is again divided into 3.5 triangles. Yes, 3 complete triangle and 1 half triangle. It is subdivided into digastric, submental, carotid triangle and muscular triangle. By what? Divided by anterior and posterior bellies of digastric muscle and superior belly of omohyoid muscle. Yes. Now, In the posterior triangle is divided into occipital and subclavial triangle by inferior belly of omohyoid, whereas the anterior triangle is divided into digastric triangle, submental triangle, carotid triangle and muscular triangle by two bellies, anterior and posterior belly of digastric and belly of omohyoid, that two superior belly of omohyoid. In the posterior, the inferior belly is involved. Here, superior belly is involved. Dividing anterior triangle into digastric triangle, submental triangle, carotid triangle and the muscular triangle. Okay, how they are divided? The large anterior triangle extending between anterior border of sternocleidomastoid to the anterior median line of neck, divided into digastric by its two bellies. So the triangle that is extending between anterior and the posterior anterior and posterior bellies of digastric is considered as digastric triangle. Yes, the digastric triangle is present in between two bellies of the digastric muscles and divided into carotid by anterior belly of digastric. Yes, this is the carotid triangle divided by anterior belly of digastric and superior belly of omohyoid. See, the area present between two bellies of digastric muscle is digastric triangle, and the triangle that is present between digastric muscle and this is what? Superior belly of omohyoid, right? And this is a sternocleidomastoid. It is considered as carotid triangle. These two are the main triangles in the anterior triangle. Apart from that, two triangles, we have another two. What are they? The muscular triangle, which is complete of muscles, and another one is submental triangle, that is present below the mandible. Submental means what? Mandible. So the triangle that is present below the mandible is considered as submental triangle. Okay, this is the complete discussion of anterior triangle. The next part, the part 2 of anterior triangle, containing the discussion of submental, digastric, carotid triangle. Muscular triangle is not that important, which doesn't contain any prominent structures. So we will discuss about digastric, submental, carotid triangle in further classes. Okay, if you have any doubt, please comment in the comment section, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Namaste.